And it's important to let you know you have exactly 20 minutes. So be as brief as possible. Go straight to the real issues so that you don't waste time on non-issues, quote unquote. Focus on the real issues.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Reverend Canon Chris MATIANG'I, the General Secretary of NCSK. To my left is Henry Njagi, then Reverend Mother Wangari, Father Diani from the Orthodox Church. We have the moderator of the PCA, Dr. Thegu on my left. To my right is the chair of NCSK, Dr. Timothy Dambuki. We have our vice chair of NCSK, Dr. Okinda. We have Mary from the Mothers Union, and we have Bishop Ole Mpeo from the Kenya Evangelical Lutheran Church. So we are full house, and without wasting time, I'll give this chance to the chair of NCSK to lead the next conversation.
It's okay. Thank you. Chairs, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving us an opportunity to come here to represent the church under the umbrella of the NCCK memo to you this morning. Honorable chairs, we are grateful for this opportunity to present this memorandum to this honorable committee. What we will share with you today is a summarized version of the full memorandum we submitted to yourselves via email on September 15th, 2023. We'll be glad to clarify on any areas you may require further information on regards our memorandum on the overall state of our nation. The National Council of Churches of Kenya is a family of Christian churches and communions established in 1913. This makes NCCK the oldest and the largest umbrella body for the churches in Kenya, bringing together 32 member churches and 18 Christian organizations. NCCK has presence in all the 47 counties, bringing together 16 million Christians organized in over 50,000 congregations. Structurally, the NCCK has devolved to the grassroots with the governance organs that comprise of wards, committees, county coordinating committees, regional committees, executive committee, and a General Assembly. The Council endeavors to fulfill the vision, one church, united in faith and mission, witnessing to Jesus Christ and transforming lives. Being guided by the mission, holistic transformation.
On a point of order,
yes.
Maybe to guide the Reverend, Bishop, please, you spare us the history. Just go straight to the issues, as we said, in the interest of time.
Thank you. Now, centrality of dialogue. Honorable chairs, we commend your committee for progress you have made in reaching agreement on the agenda for the bipartisan consultative process that has been bestowed on you. Recommendations on the agenda items set out by the committee. Having keenly considered the 5 agenda items outlined in the notice of public participation, we submitted the full memorandum with more details and justifications. Allow us to highlight the following recommendations. Outstanding constitutional matters, the cost of living and related issues. To address the spiraling cost of living, we strongly recommend that that the Finance Act 2023 be repealed to reduce the tax burden imposed on the people. This will provide incentives to micro and macro investments, which are the core drivers of economic recovery of the nation. Further to this, we recommend a forensic audit of the national debt to ensure the Kenyans pay back only those debts that were legitimately taken and used for the benefit of the people of Kenya. Implementation of the two-thirds gender rule. Having considered the measures and the proposals made for attainment of two-thirds gender rule over the last 13 years, we recommend that the government prepare a comprehensive report detailing the measures taken to comply with the provision in Article 27, Clause 8. The report should show laws, policies, and the strategies developed and implemented, as well as reporting on action taken when state bodies, organs, and committees have failed to adhere to the rule. Governance issues, including promoting national unity and inclusivity in public appointments. To promote national unity and inclusivity in public appointments, we recommend that appointing authorities shall ensure the face of Kenya and the ethnic balance is respected and seen to be done. Constitutional commissions be accorded genuine financial and operational freedom, and that their decisions be respected and adhered to. To entrench the rule of law, the executive and the parliament should stop the blatant disregard and dishonest disobedience of court orders and desist from disparaging the judiciary. Attempts, checks, and balances. Recognizably, honorable chairs, the future well-being of Kenya is predicated on constitutionalism and the rule of law. We strongly recommend that reading of the Constitution of Kenya be included as a unit in the basic and tertiary education curriculum. I want to ask the Vice Chair to continue.
Thank you, Honorable Chairs. My name is Bishop Dr. John Okinda, the Vice Chairman, NCCK, and the President of PEFA Churches here in Kenya. Honorable Chairs, I will deal with electoral justice and related matters. 1, restructuring and reconstituting of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Honorable Chairs, the current state in which Kenya does not have a properly constituted election management body is risky. This must be remedied with utmost urgency. Towards this end, the National Council of Churches recommends that the agreement be reached soonest for the reconstruction of the IEBC commissioners selection panel so that the process is completed soonest. Number 2, boundaries delimitation. As provided in Article 88 of the Constitution, the boundaries delimitation exercise is limited to 2 things. A, review of boundaries of constituencies to balance population quotas and change of names of constituencies where necessary. And B, review of boundaries, names, and number of wards. Toward this end, National Council of Churches advises that this Honorable National Dialogue Committee urgently complete the process of recruitment of IBC commissioners so that the process commences without delay. It is now clear that the deadline of March 2024 for delimitation will be violated, creating a constitutional crisis. NCCK recommends that an advisory opinion be sought from the courts with consideration of extending the timelines for delimitation process by 2 years. Number 3, audit of 2022 presidential election. Honorable Chairs, despite the provision of principles of election and democratic elections in Article 81 of the Constitution, the results of each presidential election since 2007 have been questioned, at times with devastating results. To work towards long-standing and understanding of the shortcomings in these elections and how to enhance their credibility, we recommend the enactment of legislation to establish a judicial commission to carry out an audit of the 2022 general elections to ensure the process promotes peace, stability, and national cohesion. Entrenching funds into the Constitution. Honorable Chairs, in your communication, reference was made to intention to entrench 3 funds in the Constitution, and this being 1, National Government Constituency Development Fund, and 2, National Government Affirmative Fund, and number 3, Senate Oversight Fund. We observed that these funds would be managed by members of National Assembly, women representatives of counties, and in the National Assembly and Senate, respectively. Nonetheless, we do note with emphasis that the Constitution does not allocate any funds management responsibilities to the 2 houses of Parliament. This would offend and, in essence, negate the principle of separation of powers. We therefore recommend that the 3 funds are not established and the existing Constituency Development Fund be terminated as they are in contravention of the Constitution. Honorable Chairs, allow me to say something on establishment and entrenchment of state offices. 1, the office of the leader of the official opposition, and 2, the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Honorable Chairs, the National Council of Churches of Kenya is on record recommending that measures be taken to provide for a dignified opposition. The proposal for creation of the office of the leader of the official opposition is therefore a step in the right direction. Quote notably, there was appointed a holder of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, a position that currently does not exist in the Constitution. The proposed establishment of the office of this office is therefore a move to legalize what already exists. Recognizing that the establishment of the 2 positions would change the structure of government as outlined in the Constitution, we recommend that a people-driven process be created to run in which Kenyans debate about the 2 proposed positions to determine their scope, mandate, and implications. Thank you, Honorable Chairs.
Honorable Chairs, we are getting to the conclusion. We have also spoken to the fidelity to political parties, coalitions, and the law on multi-party democracy. That is preventing interference with political parties' coalitions. Honorable Chairs, Article 4, subsection 2 of the Constitution provides that the Republic of Kenya shall be a multi-party democratic state founded on the national values and principles of governance referred to in Article 10. It is therefore inimical to the Constitution for any person or organ to engage in any actions that would offend the democratic nature of the Republic. We further recognize the Constitution in Article 38 accords Kenyans the right to hold and change political opinions and to join or exit political parties at wish. Nonetheless, a person who changes or is deemed to have changed the party that nominated them for any position should lose that position. To address the concerns that have been raised with regard to interference with opposition political parties by government, we recommend implementation of the processes and procedures provided for in the Constitution of the political parties as well as the Political Parties Act. In regard to proposals to amend the Constitution, Honorable Chairs, the NCCK speaks to it and says, allows us to specifically recommend against any proposal to amend the Constitution. Instead, we urge you to identify and drive legislative and policy measures to address the issues set out in the agenda. It will not be prudent at this moment in time to subject the country to the polarization and the politicization of life that accompanies constitutional amendment discussed when there is a potentially divisive boundaries delimitation process coming up in a short while and an economic meltdown. In conclusion, we in NCCK commend the National Dialogue Committee for the process you have engaged in. However, the time frame provided is rather short, which has the risk of forcing the committee to adopt a political settlement with minimal public participation. NCCK recommends that the committee engages Kenyans at the county level to ensure no Kenyan is left unheard. We recommend that the term of the committee to be extended for this purpose. On our part, we remain committed to the betterment of Kenya. We'll continue promoting dialogue at all levels so that Kenyans build a common vision for a just, resilient, sustainable future, being inspired by the words of Prophet Amos, chapter 3, verse 3, do two walk together. That is our memorandum.
Thank you very much. I just note that what you're reading is not in our document here. Is it? Where? Mine is
summarized. You have a summary.
Oh, you are summarizing. Okay, okay.
Yes, but we can give you the summary as well.
Yeah, please do. Please give us. Now, I'll ask the majority leader who will be leaving us shortly to ask his questions.
Thank you, Chair.
And we have exactly 5 minutes. So even as you ask the questions, 1 minute each.
Chair, let me thank the NCCK for their presentation. And I'll go straight to the question. One is on the Finance Act review of 2023 and the allegation on page 6 of their document for the executive and the legislature to stop the blatant disregard and disobedience of court orders. I would want to benefit from specifics. Which court orders has the legislature or the executive in the recent past blatantly disobeyed? And on the review of the Finance Act 2023, they say we reduce the tax burden. I would want to know what are the specific proposals in the Finance Act 2023 that they would want reviewed, and if they have estimated the quantum of what they call the tax burden on the 2023 tax proposals. Two, Chair, is on their recommendation regarding the IBC selection panel. I see they have actually analyzed very well the options that the country has, and they recommend that political parties should not play a role in this process, while in their final recommendation, they recommend the reconstitution of the panel, and in what they say is a win-win situation. Is that to say you want a panel, a new panel appointed without any representation of political parties. Does that include the political parties liaison committee? Would that include the Parliamentary Service Commission that has representation of political parties? And which other bodies would you be recommending to be represented in this panel to the exclusion of political parties? Lastly, Chair, is on the recommendation on the funds, NGCDF and the Senate oversight, and they say that establishment of these funds is inimical to the principle of separation of powers. I do not know if NCSK is aware that members of parliament do not implement anything to do with NGCDF, and the proposal by the Senate Oversight Fund is not for any implementation of funds. It's basically to enable senators to do their oversight work as espoused in the Constitution, Articles 94 to 96. Whereas for NGCDF, members of parliament do not, and maybe you may have based that argument on the old NGCDF Act. The reviewed NGCDF Act, members of parliament have absolutely no role. They are no longer patrons, they don't implement. Therefore, I would want to get an understanding, how do you find it that members of parliament then, or senators, in view of the changes that have been there in the NGCDF Act and the proposal by the Senate for the Senate Oversight Fund, the same with GAF, the women reps have no role in implementation. These are funds established in the executive. Members of parliament play an oversight role over those funds and don't manage the funds. How then do you find that being inimical to the principle of separation of powers, with members of parliament, senators, and women reps having no role in those funds? Thank you.
You know, Kimani has given you a mouthful. I would suggest that you take notes. He's given you very many points, and since he is like in a hurry, in fact, Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichung'wah, you know, the final recommendation by NCCK is a fear for a political settlement because of the rushed manner that we have to take into account. So if you could, one more comment or two more comments. Yeah. But I want to plead with you that you don't take it against the work of this committee. We do not. Actually, we had taken into account the need to go all over the country. And we realized because of 60 days time limit, we may not do justice by so doing. Therefore, we settled for the stakeholder engagement, which is what you are actually doing this morning, along with others. And since you represent over 37 million faithfuls, I'm quite sure you can understand when we tell you we do not have to go to the counties, to the wards, because we think that those are ably recommended. That's your final recommendation against a political settlement.
Thank you. And Your Excellency, you should have mentioned also the issue of the budget. We had no budget to do that.
Well said. Mine is very, very short. You are pitching for a speedy reconstitution of the IEBC. And we are making a raft of recommendations on how the panel needs to be rejigged. But I want to ask you, first and foremost, what relationship does the NCCK, if at all, have with the body commonly known as Interreligious Council of Kenya, which, as we speak, under the current Act, is represented at the IBC selection panel by 2 representatives? Are you, by any chance, a member or an affiliate of the Interreligious Council? And do you feel adequately represented by that body? Thank you.
Thank you. I think those are sufficient comments. Thank you. Over to you, Secretary General and the Chair. And you know, Chair, we must make a disclosure. We were together this Sunday, and thank you for the wonderful inspirational sermon. And you promised to come, but you were talking about Wednesday. We made it possible for you Tuesday, which is today. Karibuni sana.
Thank you. Good. Thank you very much, Chairs. Let me start with the Finance Act. We made ourselves very clear in terms of the provisions of the Finance Act that the Finance Act increased the tax burden of Kenyans. I will not put all the examples, but I will take, for example, the VAT for purposes of fuel. We know fuel plays a key role in fueling and powering the economy. So when the VAT was increased by 8%, it has literally affected every sector of the economy. And I think that is something that we need to discuss as Kenyans and ask ourselves whether we want to continue that way. And it was made worse that the subsidy that was there before, although it has been replaced by the stabilization fund, needs to have cognizance of the concerns that are raised by Kenyans and especially the business community. On court orders, we have been working with other agencies that have documented court orders that have been disobeyed or disregarded, not just by this regime, but also the previous regime. And it is something that is of great concern to us as religious leaders, because constitutionalism, which has been the bedrock of law and order, requires that every institution respects the other. And without going into details, this is something that we feel needs to be taken seriously going forward.
I think I'm okay. I just wanted that clarification.
Yes.
It is even from past regimes, because
Yes.
in the last 1 year, I would have really benefited from a single court order that either Parliament or the executive has disregarded. So if you're going back to past regimes, I think I'm satisfied.
Yes, it's a historical fact, and we would like that
But also to point
not
out
happen.
to you, General Secretary,
Yes.
the stabilization fund is not a new fund. It had been there. Again, it had been abused and misused elsewhere. It's always existed.
Yes, there's always
General
issues.
Secretary, please
Yes.
don't be intimidated by Kimani Chungo.
Yes, the majority leader.
I'm only informing him because
I
he
need
seems not
protection
to.
from the majority leader.
I'm only informing. You know, General Secretary is sitting next to my moderator.
Yes,
Therefore, I cannot attempt.
he might excommunicate you.
And
If you-
General Secretary,
Yes.
respectfully, you have 2 last minutes to
Yes.
say something.
Yes, if it doesn't interject, I'll finish quickly. On IBC panel, we have a very simple approach. We don't want political parties to play a role in selection of IBC commissioners. We want a professional IBC. We have been involved in this for quite a long time, since 1992. So we believe that because there was a lot of controversy around the selection panel that is in place, of which we also have 2 representatives, which was the question from the minority leader, is that we are open to look backwards and say, can we get a panel that is acceptable to all the sides in the political arena? That is what we are saying. So that then we can get an IBC and a commission that is professional. We do not wish to have, it's our position that the IPPG framework, which created the ECK, where political parties directly nominated the commissioners, was creating a situation where the referee is chosen by the parties and the players. So we are for a professional IBC. And we know the law was amended, there were court orders and so on and so forth. So we have been involved in this game and would prefer that a political settlement that gives us a panel that is agreeable and gives us commissioners that are also agreeable to Kenyans, then we can move on. On funds, I think we are clear. Political leaders in this country want to manage funds. CDF was created in early 2000 to provide for devolved funds. It was after we got the new constitution, there was no alignment with the new constitution. So it's time for us to actually align these funds, because I know also once we pass this one for oversight by Senate, because Senate have been demanding a fund as well, and the women rep. What about the MCAs? So what we are saying is what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. Then go ahead and establish a fund for every MCA in this country, which is going to be absurd. So let's do away with these funds. I'm not saying we do away with them tomorrow, but can we have a conversation so that the executive runs with funds? Then we have our parliamentarians running with oversight. I think on the last question, yes, we participate and we are members of IRCK, the Interreligious Council, and we have 2 representatives in the panel. But even having them on board, we know the challenges we had when we nominated them. We have full confidence in them, but Kenya is bigger than all of us. It's time for us to sit down and talk and come up with a panel that is acceptable to all parties. And then we can have an IBC. Thank you very much.
Chair, maybe just to clarify, my question was, in the absence of political parties nominating panelists, are there other bodies? I was hoping maybe you would say, in relation to what the minority law was asking, whether you have any relation with the Interreligious Council, that maybe we remove the 2 representatives from the Parliamentary Service Commission, the Political Parties Liaison Committee, because in a way, political parties have control of the Parliamentary Service Commission because it's a commission for parliamentarians and they are political parties as much as they are also independents in Parliament. The Political Parties Liaison Committee is represented in that selection panel, and those are political parties represented in that panel. Are you then proposing we remove even those, maybe include the Episcopal Conference and NCCK, give the religious community more representation, or put other professional bodies like ISPAC, give more representation to LSK? Maybe for information, LSK has 1 representative, Interreligious Council has 2, Parliamentary Service Commission 2, and who is the other one? The Public Service Commission 1, and the Political Parties Liaison Committee 1 in that selection panel. So that composition, how would you propose we tinker with it?
Yes, I know it started when we had 4. The religious leaders had 4. Because you know the history after 2017 election, I think, that we had to disband the IBC that was there then, the Isaac Hassan Committee. So we 2 of them were taken from us. If you allow the religious leaders have the interest of this country, they can form the entire panel and give you the best. They can give you the best commission. The only thing is that now we bring the SUPKEM, we bring the Hindu Council, we bring the KCCB and NCSK and all the other faiths, and we'll have the best. But we know that may not be acceptable. So we are happy to have the 2. We are happy with the Political Parties Liaison Committee participating, because they also have a role to play, and political parties can have consensus on 2. So we cannot completely deny political parties a role to play in the selection panel. Just what we were against is the principle where we go back to the IPPG framework. Yes, where they nominate directly.
We heard from Attorney General Emeritus yesterday, Moswako, who presided over the selection panel. I think it was not the panel. When you do mention that, I think the first chair of IBC, the late Justice Zacchaeus Chesoni. But he had a category of Kenyans he called people with gravitas, people who cannot be compromised. Could you think about that? So that even as you think of having a professional, what you're saying, a professional IBC, you end up with the problem we have had in this country, Canon MATIANG'I, is men and women who get compromised, who get bought with money, and they bring such hurt and harm to a country. So could you think of people with gravitas? People, in that case, we have people like Margaret Kenyatta at that time. She was the first mayor, and she had authority. Even Mzee Moi at that time could not do anything about it. The late Harry Mole, an icon of integrity, right? And that is what delivered the most democratic election outcome in 2002. Since that time, with all our professional commissioners and others, Kenyans have come to grief. Think about this and perhaps pray about it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. That's important. And I think what makes IBC dependent is not the security of tenure. It is the character of every commissioner. I think we have suffered in the last several years, and we need to see how we can up our game as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are most grateful, very grateful for your presentation as NCCK. You're a big voice in this country. We want to hear the next big voice, that is KCCB. If you want to stay on and hear what they have to say, you're most welcome. KCCB, you're next. The Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, KCCB.
I want to give a copy. The summary.
You can introduce yourselves.
Here before you is the KCCB team that has come to do our memorandum on these different issues that were identified by the National Dialogue Committee. Father Charles Kilonzo.
George Biruri.
Wanjala Nasimio.
Constance Mtende.
So on behalf of KCCB, we will go straight to present our memorandum.
Now, before you do, I'm sure you're conversant with these faces by now, thanks to the media. I think everybody knows Honorable Catherine Wabelianga, a former senator, now member for Yala, Hassan Omar. We have Amina Munyazi, member for Malindi. Mheshimiwa Eugene Wamalo is a party leader and a former cabinet minister. The deputy minority leader, Kimani Ichung'wah, has just walked out. Opiyo Ndai, the co-chair. There's Senator Omugen, senator for Nyamira. And then we have Cicely Barire and myself. Karibuni.
Asante. So, honorable chairs and the whole committee, all protocols observed, I was saying we'll go straight to the presentation of our memorandum. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will do the presentation on behalf of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. And we are the General Secretariat management who have come to represent the bishops. I will go straight to the issues. The first one being outstanding constitutional issues. We were able to come up with specific issues under the same outstanding issues. And under Article 43 of the Constitution, on the issue of the cost of living and related issues, these are the issues raised by KCCB. The first one is high standard of health. And here are our concerns. We are still not very comfortable with the way the Article 43 and Article 26(4) of the Constitution have been framed, and KCCB is of the view that it still promotes the issue of reproductive health rights in terms of abortions, and those two articles somehow are disguised to promote abortion. The second issue that we have